Welcome to Analog Schtick, a PlayStation 2 podcast, the podcast where every month we do a deep dive on one PS2 title. We cover the development history, discuss the game's legacy, and share our memories, thoughts, and opinions on the game through a modern lens. You can find us on podcast platforms such as... Let me redo that line.
No, there's no redoing. This is actually
Okay. You can find us on podcast platforms as Analog Schtick, as well as a video version of the podcast on our YouTube channel, Joystick. I am your host, Morgan, and with me is the world's second best super spy, 006. Clayton, how you doing?
Hey guys, how y'all doing? It's me, the world's second best super spy.
From down south also, I suppose.
From down south, yep. I'm here in the Texas branch of MI6, just doing my due diligence. So yeah, I mean, how you doing, Morgan?
I done got hitched.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
When did we record last?
It was a week. It was a week before my wedding.
Was that? I'm just trying to figure out. Was that over a month ago, or was that
What's the date today? Almost. 15th. Almost exactly 1 month ago.
Okay, so
2 days off.
Yeah, there we go. It's been about a month.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, how's married life treating you? How's the adjustment?
You know what? I was not expecting it to be so exhausting. And I don't mean like relationship problems, I mean like physically doing laundry and dishes and cooking and cleaning and stuff all the time. I mean, I was doing that stuff before, but like I don't think at this level where I am like kind of responsible for everything, if you know what I mean. I don't know.
And you had to change the locations, so that's a little different. Like, I mean, I guess at your mom's house you were doing 2 people's worth of chores for, any chore that you did. Like you did 2 people's worth of dishes and 2 people's worth of laundry.
Right.
But
yeah,
it's probably a little different now that you're at a new base.
Yes, it is. And it's like, I don't know, like on top of just like doing those tasks, it's like, okay, well, all of these like items have never been organized before. Now I have to organize them. And I don't know. It's, I'm getting used to it. I'm getting less exhausted by, maintenance tasks. So that's good.
Like at my apartment that I'm currently in, I was only here for like 5 months before we got married. So I wasn't like really like settled down with how I had been doing things. So everything was pretty flexible when Claire moved in. Yeah. So, but Sage has been there for like 2 years, right?
I don't remember.
He's just more settled than I was. Yeah.
Like nothing changed for him basically, besides just me being here all the time.
I assume that helped. I mean, you were there pretty frequently, so.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure that made the transition a little easier. Yeah,
I didn't feel like like the first few nights, like sleeping in like a new bedroom with like a new mattress and everything was a little weird.
Yeah.
Or, took some adjusting, but after that, we're fine.
I can't, it's hard for me to switch mattresses. I have this thing with mattresses where it's like the Dunning-Kruger effect of uncomfortable, where it always starts out uncomfortable, then like a month in, I reach peak comfort, and then for some reason the mattress becomes like increasingly more uncomfortable as time goes on.
Oh no, that sucks.
Yeah, I've reached that with my current mattress.
It's uncomfortable?
Yeah, perpetually uncomfortable. Sleeping for me is a little weird because I need like an exoskeleton of pillows around me in order to fall asleep. I need like one between my legs. I need to hold on to one. I need one under my head. And then maybe if I'm wild, a really thin one under my waist. Okay. Just to like keep my spine more straight and aligned.
You got a little sensitive spine?
Well, I have very broad shoulders and a tiny waist.
Okay.
So the ideal sleeping position is a like straight aligned spine, and deviating from that is usually what's going to cause people discomfort sleeping. And that's basically my entire life because I got these fat honking shoulders, itty bitty waist,
snatched,
and
the proper term is snatched. And yeah, I get uncomfortable very fast. So yeah, that's my life. Okay. Yeah. Anything else? I mean, like marriage-wise, you didn't expect? I don't know. No, not really. I mean, we keep, or at least I keep asking him. I'm like, hey, do you feel married yet? And I think a couple days ago, or maybe it was last night, he finally was like, yeah. Because for a while I would ask him and he'd be like, no, not really. Or like kind of.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, for a while, it just did not feel that. It's also like I feel like on the wedding day, I had the most sort of like detachment from my body because it was weird that it was happening.
Well, it all like happened so fast.
Yeah, it happens very fast.
Yeah.
And it's like,
this is the thing that we were waiting to do for 7 years, and I'm in the middle of it happening right now. And then it's over. It was weird when it was over, because I'm like, it's over? It didn't feel like, I don't know, I guess it didn't feel like incredibly ceremonious, like it just ended.
Right, yeah.
Oh, you watched Goldeneye.
Yeah, so I wanted to do some like preparation, and this was like a little bit over a month ago. But I wanted to do some preparation and like get a feel for like the vibe of like this era of James Bond. So I decided to watch the Goldeneye movie, which I think, did that come out in 95 or was it 90?
I'm not sure. I also looked into watching a 007 movie. I think I was going to watch No Time to Die or whatever the one.
Okay.
There's like an advertisement, like a trailer in this game for one Bond movie, and I was going to try to watch that one, but I did not get around to it.
Okay. I think Goldeneye was the only one I could find that I could watch for free with Prime. So that's the one I picked. But it has Pierce Brosnan, which was what I was looking for because that's what the Bond in this game is modeled after.
Mm-hmm.
It was freaking funny. Like, it wasn't supposed to be funny, but it was funny.
It was a goofy ass movie.
It was goofy. Yes. It would go, like, switch back and forth between this is a serious, like, super spy. This is a serious suave man. Everybody wants to bang him. To, like, talking to like nerds in the weapons lab and having like physical gag comedy. And I was like, what? Okay, I don't know. It was a good time. I would recommend it.
I'm sure that would have helped, like, because this is my first experience with anything from the Bond IP.
Right.
Like real experience, I guess. Like I've bore witness to trailers and such, but this is like the only thing that I've like seen to completion, like the entire story and everything. So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was aware of like a lot of the tropes and sort of
misogyny.
Yeah, the different aspects of what Bond as an IP is. But yeah, this is, and it was pretty much what I expected.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, other than that, of equal importance to your marriage, dare I say,
yes,
Overwatch 2 was released.
Of equal importance.
Of equal importance, yes. But yeah, how's Overwatch 2 been treating you?
You know, I kind of go back and forth. Because, like, when I'm playing the game, there's a lot of, like, games where I'm like, I am having a good time. But then sometimes I'm like, I miss the 6v6. Or, like, I miss, you know, the old, like, meta or something, I guess, because I understood it better, probably. And then there's some things that feel a little bit broken. Well, we discovered a broken team comp, at least, at our level of play. And that is what we call the beam team.
Yeah. The Symmetra, Mei, Moira, Zarya. I think it's really Symmetra Mei is just annoying as hell.
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't really matter who your tank or who your second healer is. As long as you have Symmetra, Mei, and Moira, and if you just sort of let the Symmetra, just let her go. Just let her do whatever and just follow her around. At least if you have a competent Symmetra, which we did because that was you. So
that's me. Yeah, I think part of the reason is that, like, not to get too much into whatever. This can be whatever we want. We're going to talk about Overwatch now.
Yes.
A lot of the heroes are countered by beams, like or not countered, but like they have a weakness to beams that they can't really defend against. Like Orisa with her little spear spin can't be blocked, or it does not block beams. And Diva doesn't block beams. Sigma doesn't block beams. Genji doesn't block beams. A lot of fairly popular heroes, they're weak to the beams. And even like with Symmetra specifically, her beam damage charges off of shields. She can kind of just like stare at a Winston bubble or a Reinhardt shield and just kind of like get her super powered beam going. So a lot of melting potential, especially when you have everyone constantly being slowed by Mei.
Yes. It's
a very breakable composition, in my opinion, though.
A competent Pharah should be able to destroy Beam Team. We just didn't find one last night, so...
Yeah. Personally, I've been enjoying the game. Like, I think I like all the changes that they've made compared to what was there in Overwatch 1. Like, the switch to 5v5 is a little, like, bittersweet for me because I do enjoy, like, a lot of the tank synergies that were in Overwatch 1.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I kind of recognize that, like, having two beefy characters and a lot of shields made the game slower.
It was kind of a slog.
There was various metas throughout Overwatch 1's existence that were just, like, painful. Like
Goats.
Goats was pretty painful. There was a period of time where it was Orisa Sigma for a while, so it was like double shield, and it was just like, holy God, I'm always shooting a shield in this game.
Yeah.
And they made a lot of changes to just how most of the tanks work. I think every tank is a lot more fun to play. Like Orisa now compared to how she was before is like super fun. She's like way more brawly instead of just kind of like sitting somewhere and just like laying down suppressive fire basically, which is kind of lame.
And she could be like easily destroyed if you just like walked around her shield.
She was much more of just like a bunkering sort of character. Now she's just like always in the fight, which is fun, I think. The whole 5v5 thing hasn't like settled with me long enough to really have a good grasp on how I feel about it. But first impressions are mostly positive. Yeah. And I think like the new characters that they've added, Junker Queen, Sojourn, and Kariko are all like really fun to play. I can't think of any character who's like not at least in some way more fun to play. I think McCree kind of sucks, but I'm sure he's kind of fun to somebody. So yeah, I think the game's become like more enjoyable. It's got a lot of negative press though, both like deservedly and I think undeservedly. The launch was like abysmal.
Atrocious.
Like granted, all modern multiplayer launches are terrible, and that's a weird like sort of given that we have to like acknowledge, but it was even worse than what is like what the low standard that had already been set by some other games. But it's more stable now, aside from the fact that Bastion has just been yeeted out of the game for the time being.
I haven't missed him though.
He's fine. Also, like the lead up in marketing is just like so confusing. I think everyone's in agreement that they're really like Overwatch 2 is a dumb concept because it's the same game. Like if they were going to make an Overwatch 2 that was a different game and like they maybe just left Overwatch 1 wherever it was and they're like, okay, Overwatch 2, you know, like a Call of Duty sort of situation where there's a new game. I think that's dumb. You should just keep updating Overwatch 1. It's an Activision decision, and I think they're becoming less focused on like sequelizing their franchises, but it's a universally or semi-universally condemned decision.
Well, I was going to say, it's sort of like, you know how they have like Destiny and then Destiny 2? But then they're like, Destiny 2 is it. Like, we're just going to keep like adding content to Destiny 2 instead of... Yeah. So I don't know if that's what they're going to do with Overwatch 2, but yeah, I don't know why they did it in the first place. Doesn't really make sense. It
really doesn't. It definitely doesn't make sense anymore, and it almost barely didn't make sense when they decided to do it.
Yeah.
Which was like 2019, maybe, when Overwatch 2 was announced. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, it's been a while. So I don't know. It's a dumb decision because like calling it Overwatch 2 comes with a lot of expectations that the game is going to be different, and it is pretty much the same game. So for like an outsider coming into it, it's like, what the heck? This is the same experience as Overwatch 1, and they're not really wrong. It is pretty much the same thing. But if you're like more into the Overwatch scene, you definitely notice all the changes and tweaks that have been made. Also, like as someone who followed the game, not like religiously going into Overwatch 2, but like enough that I shouldn't have been confused. I was very confused as to like what was coming with the game. It took me like, I think up until like a week before it launched or 2 weeks before it launched to be like, oh, there's no PvE. Like I totally thought there was going to be PvE in the game when it came out. Like I was like, that's the whole point of Overwatch 2. It's not there. That's weird. The whole marketing around this is just very abysmal.
Yeah, and also what about do you remember the thing where it was like, oh yeah, level up your favorite heroes and then add like passive abilities to them or whatever? Like what? I don't even...
That was meant to be for the single player.
Okay.
They also had this whole thing where they're like, Overwatch 2 will be cross-compatible with Overwatch 1 and like you'll play it on the same server. It's just like they said way too much before they like figured out what they were actually doing.
Yeah.
So I got super confused. And that's all I have to say.
Okay.
So one small little note that I want to make. Last episode I discussed there was an exercise bike in my neighbor's like apartment that I thought was a creaky bed during sex. Turns out it wasn't. It was an exercise bike. They moved out. They threw away their exercise bike, and I ripped that bad boy out of the dumpster, and now I have that exercise bike. You have the
creaky sex bed exercise bike.
I have the creaky sex bike. The exercise bike. Yeah, the exercise bike. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's in my possession. I felt like that's a little full circle thing that I just wanted to share with everyone.
Yeah, so. Now you get to creep out the new neighbors that move in. They're going to hear you on the sex bike. And they're going to be like, oh my gosh, every day at 4:30 p.m.,
They banging.
I'm going way faster than she was on this thing.
Okay.
So they're gonna be more confused.
Okay.
I mean, that's all I have to say. I mean, do you have anything else that you've done this past month that you want to talk about?
No, it's all been a haze. I'm going to be honest.
It has been.
Yeah.
It definitely has been. And I didn't even get married.
Right.
So, all right, let's dive into the topic at hand.
Agent 006, would you please tell me about the development of James Bond 007 Nightfire?
Roger that, Command. James Bond 007 Nightfire was developed by Eurocom and published by Electronic Arts. Notably, this game features James Bond, who bears the likeness of the real-life actor at the time, Pierce Brosnan. Upon its release on November 18th, 2002, 007 Nightfire received generally favorable reviews. The Metacritic score for the PS2 version sits at around 77. The Xbox and GameCube versions are not too far off. And as far as like how this game is remembered today, it's definitely, thought of fondly in certain circles, but the legacy definitely pales in comparison to James Bond's previous outing in video game form with Goldeneye 007 on the Nintendo 64. So yeah, kind of, I would call this like a hidden gem of the PS2. Doesn't seem like too many people are really talking about it, and it's a pretty solid game, all things considered. What is your experience with this game? Because I know that you've played it before, or at least experienced it before.
Yeah, so when I was a kid, and like my dad got our PS2, I was like too young to play the games competently and be like any good. So he would play them, and like, to be clear, he wouldn't just like take the controller away from me. Like I would ask him, I would be like, hey, can you play this game so I can watch it? And so like Friday nights after he got off work, we would get home, and he would play like Ratchet and Clank or something like I asked him to, and then I would always like doze off next to him on the couch, and then I would wake up to the sound of gunfire and the James Bond theme. So this was sort of like the game that he would put on like later at night, like after I had, like I said, fallen asleep. And because of that, the James Bond theme and this game are like so nostalgic to me, because it gives me the warm and fuzzies of like, oh, I'm just curled up on the couch next to my dad. So I remember he played this one and another PS2 James Bond game called Everything or Nothing, which we will get to eventually.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, we have to cover every single game that was released for the PS2. So we will, of course, get to that
every
eventually.
Single one.
Every single one. All 1,600 of them or whatever.
Jeez.
Wait. Yeah, 60. Actually, is it no? It's 1,600, not 16,000.
Oh, okay.
So we're good. We can do that.
Yeah.
1 month at a time. We should finish by the time we're like 170.
Right.
Yeah, I also have like memories of just being like, Dad, can you do this for me? Like, I just kind of want to watch this being played. It's like an early Let's Play. Like,
before
hey,
Let's Plays were a thing, it was like,
yeah, we just watched our parents play the game better than us.
Yes. So
I have like a distant memory of what I think was one of my older neighbors playing this game, and it was either this game or the GoldenEye remake for the Wii. It was one of those two games. Maybe both of them. I don't know. But yeah, that's like the only experience that I have with, maybe not even experience with this game, but with the James Bond games in general.
You just gaslit yourself into having experience with this game, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for this episode, how much of the game did you replay?
So I played through the entire campaign on the easiest difficulty. I tried the normal difficulty, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And then I didn't, at the like end of levels, it would be like, oh, you got this many like points or whatever. And I didn't go for like the highest level medals or platinums, or I don't know what you want to call them.
Yeah. I have a similar experience. I played through this entire game on the easiest difficulty over like the course of 5 hours the day before your wedding.
Oh, nice.
Because whenever I knew you were having your wedding, I just like took off the Thursday and Friday just to be like, I don't know what the plans are, so I'm just going to say this is when I want to take off now, like, 3 months ahead of time.
Yeah.
And I just forgot about it. And I was like, you know what? I'll just take this little day off, have some me time.
That's nice.
Play through all of this campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I did. I just blasted through that in one day. It was a fun time. That's all I have to say. Are you ready to get into the campaign recap?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So general,
preface to the story of this game. It's actually a unique plot. It's not a retelling of a story from the films or anything like that, which is kind of what I assumed any James Bond game would be. And maybe some of them are like that, but this is a unique plot. I don't know if it's like canon in the James. I don't even know how James Bond lore
I don't
works.
even know
how do you Legend of Zelda or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Every plot is different, or it's unique but the same at the same time.
It's the same secret agent that's reincarnated over and over again for centuries.
Yeah, I assume that because it has Pierce Brosnan, it's part of a chain of movies,
part of his,
or at least the movies are. I don't know if this game is. Yeah, but yeah,
part of the Pierce Brosnan canon or whatever. I don't know.
It's not voiced by Pierce Brosnan; it's some other guy. But that didn't bother me at all because I don't know what Pierce Brosnan even sounds like.
It was a decent approximation. I thought the voice acting was fine.
It didn't throw me off. No. I mean, it's nothing like 006 voicing James Bond.
Right. Yeah, howdy, y'all.
Shaken, not stirred, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But, I mean, this is a fairly typical action movie. The hero foils the supervillain's master plan to destroy the world for some reason sort of affair. And it's pretty firmly in the background of the whole game. Me playing through the game, just the entire thing all at once, not even broken up. I missed everything.
Yeah.
I knew there was some sort of thing with nukes going on, but then I was just I don't know what's going on. I'm just going from location to location, having fun.
Yeah.
So
the gist that I got, and this gist did not even click or even come together until I think towards the end of the game, there's the villain just straight up gives a monologue where he explains everything. It's
he does.
Oh, okay. And so basically, I think the villain, isn't his name Drake or something?
His name is, what's his full, Drake's his last name.
Okay.
It's I put it somewhere. Raphael Drake.
Oh, good.
Yep.
But so this Drake guy has a public facing persona of being anti-war, anti-nuclear weapons sort of dude, but secretly he wants to use this space laser thing, and I think maybe nuclear missiles to destroy civilization on the Earth, just so that his single corporation can come in and take over the world and run everything. And in his little spiel, he's he goes on about how he's stronger than the communists and the fascists. So I guess he's sort of, I don't know, just some ultimate capitalist. I don't know. I didn't really get it that much.
So the speech you're referring to takes place on the second to last mission.
Yeah.
And not to spoil it, because we'll try to walk through the story beats if you have not played the game. But it takes place as you walk into this big room with a bunch of enemies. So you're probably just blasting away as this key exposition is being delivered to you.
Yeah.
Which I think is just a really nice little this is how the game treats the story.
It is.
It's just firmly in the background, buried beneath a bunch of explosions and gunfire.
I was gonna say, it's what? Sorry, I couldn't hear you over all the murder and everything I was doing.
But it's fine. It doesn't demand too much from you, which I think is exactly how a game like this should be treating its campaign.
Yes. The story should be in the background.
Yeah. Maybe you have a couple twists. That's fine. That's all you need. All right. So you ready to get into the first level of the game?
Yes. So our first level is called the Paris. Is it Prelude or is it Prelude?
I always called it Prelude.
Prelude?
But I think it really depends on your accent.
Okay. So let me try that again. Our first level is called the Paris Prelude. Set during New Year's Eve in Paris, the mission starts with you as James Bond and a helicopter providing sniper support to French operative Dominique Paradis. Whatever.
I don't know.
It's supposed to be Dominique Paradis, so do it that way you will. Paradis?
I think she's pretty much only referred to as Dominique.
Dominique, a hot lady. That's all you need to know. That's all that matters.
She's smoking hot.
Yep.
Operative. There's quite a few smoking hot operatives in the game. Don't get them confused. Some of them look the same.
Yes.
All right. So this is it just throws you into the game if you don't have anything on your save file, I believe. I think that's how that works. I didn't have anything on my memory card, so it just plopped me right into this mission, which is pretty sweet. And because it's like an on-rail section for this like sniper section, it kind of like dictates the pace. That's definitely a little played out. Like we have that in Skyrim where it's like, okay, we're going to throw you into the game on this on-rail segment, and then we're going to dictate the pace, kind of set things up before we relinquish control to the player. We're going to kind of set the mood. And I think it definitely works in this sort of game. No loading screens, but no like menu screens to get through before you jump in. So
yeah, I think I like it. It was good. Instead of having like a super long like opening cinematic, you just like feel like you're part of like everything that's going on like right off the bat. I think that was good. Oh, by the way, before I forget, what did you think of the intro cinematic like music video thing with the guns
and the song
and the fire and the song and the naked ladies? I don't actually think they were naked, but
probably just scantily clad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. I think every James Bond has like a song, right? Like,
yes.
Isn't that like a thing? Like,
I think so because I remember like Skyfall. The song for Skyfall was like a big hit.
Okay. I don't know if it's a unique like a written for the movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
Usually, this I didn't write it down, so I can't say this like super definitively, but I'm pretty sure I read that this was a unique song for this game as well. So,
oh, really?
Kind of on the same level as these movies where it's like a unique plot and a special song for
it.
So,
well, the song sounded very 90s, so.
It definitely did.
Yes.
That felt very dated.
Yes.
Especially in like that intro section, but.
Yeah.
It sets the mood, I suppose.
But so back to the prelude. In the second half of the mission, you drive through the streets of Paris in, is that MI6? That's MI6.
MI6.
In MI6.
Not M16. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's not M16. You drive through the streets of Paris in MI6's souped up Aston Martin, chasing down a truck carrying explosives. You have access to missiles, smokescreen, and the ability to drive on two wheels and squeeze between cars to pull off all these crazy stunts.
I believe there's a couple other moves, but I couldn't remember them. I would say that this felt a little overwhelming to me at first, because like, not like it's, I can't comprehend what's happening, but like, it just like, okay, we're driving a car now. This wasn't what I was expecting, but yeah, and I have like all these weird abilities, but and it's hard to mess up super bad.
Yeah, I think there's like an operative like on the like comms with you that's telling you like, hey, use this gadget in this scenario, like as you need to use it. So it's not like, I don't know, but I still like during the driving segment, I was like running into walls and like missing turns and all this like crap that made James Bond look incredibly incompetent, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But not what the game's going for.
I think there is just a level of like gathering your bearings whenever we jump back to like an older game like this.
Yes.
I don't know, like depending on the game, I was playing on a CRT, so everything's just kind of how it should be, I guess, like as far as feel and everything. But I don't know, it's just like jumping to a different time period and you gotta get used to like visual cues and stuff.
Yes.
I also ran into walls. So yeah, that's the intro. We make I think we just EMP the truck or something and it falls into the bridge, and then we make out with Dominique, because of course.
Right.
After the Paris prelude, we move on to the exchange. This is sort of the first, like, it's the first real mission. You play as Bond on the ground, infiltrating a party in order to stop the exchange of a stolen piece of missile guidance hardware from the U.S. space weapons platform. The suspected buyer is the seemingly innocuous industrialist by the name of Raphael Drake. In the beginning of this mission, you have the freedom to approach the castle with stealth or go in guns blazing. I think we both chose the guns blazing approach.
So I actually played this level twice.
Okay.
The first time I was like trying to get a feel for the game, and I was also on normal difficulty and it was not going very well. And that time I went the guns blazing approach. The second time I accidentally bumbled into the stealth route without knowing what I was doing. I was just like, all right.
I'm pretty sure I started out stealthy until like there was just one part where I got spotted. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to start blasting.
Right.
Yeah, I watched a playthrough of someone who actually knows what they're doing. And there is like, alternate paths and routes and like special things you can do as James Bond. There's a lot of like really interesting mechanics as far as like you can sneak up behind someone, grab their gun, disarm them.
Oh, wait, you can do that?
Yeah.
Oh.
You can like yoink their gun out of their hands and then they turn around with their hands up and then you just whack them.
Oh.
There's a lot of really like, I don't know what the word, immersive sim type elements where it's just like you have a lot of cool gadgets and tools as James Bond. And I think one of the things that the game doesn't do super well is like really showing the player how to use them. They kind of just set them loose with a bunch of tools and you can ignore them or try to figure them out. This first level is kind of like it's a little sandbox-ish and it doesn't really hold your hand necessarily. I got a little lost, and I know that you did too.
Yes.
It wasn't anything super crazy. There was a couple times where I did have to look up a guide for different levels, but this one was mostly fine.
Well, and also, I thought it was kind of funny. So, like, for the infiltration part, you're basically, like, trying to get into the castle to, like, go to this party thing. And the part where we got lost, I think, was, like, in the outside, like, courtyards. As soon as you get in the castle, there's, like, literally only one way to go. Which I thought was kind of funny.
I think some of the geometry and stuff, like, the castle architecture just kind of felt samey on the outside. Just kind of felt like big boxes and open spaces. So it was kind of hard to get my bearings.
Yes.
I got lost in the later section of this level for sure.
Oh, yeah, that too.
But yeah, after you dispatch the guards on the outside of the castle and stuff like that, you switch into your party attire and start posing as one of the guests. Here we are semi-introduced to a variety of gadgets because our weapons are taken away. We bust out our little like lighter, which doubles as a camera, and we're meant to go around taking some pictures, trying to identify people. So
wait, we're supposed to. Wait, what? I didn't do that.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's how like the cutscene where you see Raphael starts. You got your little camera out.
I just walked up some stairs and went through a door, and then it was just going.
And then it was gold.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you didn't have to do it.
Oh, okay.
I think the cutscene does start with you taking a pic, though.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, like, did you have a favorite gadget? We can discuss this now or later, I suppose, but...
The only thing that I, like, really used with any sort of consistency was the laser.
Yeah.
Because, like, you had to, kind of.
Mm-hmm. I saw some cool stuff where there were people, like, I think disarming, like, security systems and stuff using the laser to, like, open a panel and, like, cut a wire or something.
That's what I would use it for, yeah.
That was pretty neat, because I think that was mostly optional. Continuing with the mission... Sorry, I'm going to burp. Never mind. Wait, there we go. So continuing with the mission, we rendezvous with Dominique, who is undercover as Drake's girlfriend. That felt childish, but I don't know what else to call it. Lover? I don't know.
Yeah.
And we're introduced to another operative, Zoe Nightshade, which is a little too hardcore of a name, to be honest.
All the women's names in James Bond, it's like a thing where they're very on the nose, by the way.
Oh, okay.
In Goldeneye, there was a woman whose last name was Onatop, and like you like learn her name, and they cut to the next scene, and she's literally having sex with the dude and is like on top of him,
and
like chokes him to death or something. Just so you know, that's like a thing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Good. I don't know what she did that was Nightshade-ish.
Was she wearing purple or like black or anything?
I think she was wearing red. She was the blonde lady.
Okay, red would also probably make sense. Nightshade is poisonous, I think.
Okay. But she's the American CIA agent. Also, after thoroughly macking on Dominique at the beginning of the scene, we see James Bond get flirtatious with Zoe as well. So
because why not? And the women don't seem to mind.
No, the women are hurling themselves at this man throughout the entire game. This James Bond Uncanny Valley, or this Pierce Brosnan sort of like Uncanny Valley lookalike. They can't get enough of them.
Right.
Going forward from here, it's all guns blazing. You're just blasting your way through this party and stuff. Zoe, who is also undercover, gets found out as she's like trying to like lockpick her way into someplace. And we blast through party in an attempt to save her. We make our escape on one of the cable cars leading to the castle, and we take down a helicopter with a guided rocket launcher because that's what super spies do.
Because it's all about the subtlety, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all about the subtlety when you're a spy.
I also think during this boss fight, the game does not tell you, as far as I'm aware. I was also playing with like very quiet audio, so maybe I didn't hear it. it does not tell you, hey, by the way, you have a rocket launcher. So I was running around this little cable car with my little pistol, and I was bipping that chopper with like what was basically a pea shooter, and nothing was happening. And I was like, And then I swapped through my weapons, and I was like, oh, there's a rocket launcher. I see.
Yeah, I mean, like, this was one of the moments where I was like, this is not exactly what I imagined James Bond to be like. I was imagining mostly sneaking through places and, like, using spy gadgets and not blowing up helicopters.
Yeah, I was going to say...
Especially this early into the game. Like,
yeah, I would say it's like 40% subtlety, subterfuge, that sort of thing. And then 60% the most wild-ass stunts you've ever seen.
Yeah, which I think has its place, but maybe, I don't know, it felt like it was a little more weighted to the wild aspects of it than I would prefer.
Yeah, yeah, I would have to agree.
But I'm not like a James Bond super fan, so maybe it makes sense for what James Bond is.
Right.
But yeah, that ends this mission.
Right. So then we move on to Alpine Escape. And this would be one of the few purely vehicle-focused levels. So as you continue your escape from Drake's castle, you hijack one of his weaponized snowmobiles. I don't know why it's weaponized, but it is.
Why not? Yeah. You need that to protect the castle.
Yeah, you like hijack it in a garage. Like Zoe's like actively hijacking it, and I think you have to sit like on the turret and shoot dudes as they like try to shoot you. And then from there on, Zoe will drive down the mountain as you shoot. I wasn't personally a fan of the on-rails shooter levels. Anything that feels like a turret to me, I'm like, ew, no, I don't like that. And also there's this one part where you're going down the hill, and I think you get on a road, and there's like this big wooden gate. I missed the instructions that told me that I had to shoot the gate. So I just sat there like an idiot for 30 seconds outside the gate, getting shot by like goons. And yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, I think, so you have ammo, like you have an ammo counter on this, but
yes.
I don't think you can run out. Like, I was blasting the whole time.
Oh, okay.
Just indiscriminately. And I just like blasted the gate because, I'm looking at it. So I'm blasting anything I'm currently looking at.
Well, yeah, don't you have like a machine gun, but then also, were there rockets, or am I crazy?
I watched the video and there were rockets, but I just used the machine gun. I didn't even realize. I'm more open to the idea of these on-rail sections. I think it provides like a nice moment of like catharsis as you're like going through. Like when they're not hard, like it would be annoying as hell if like, and actually we'll get to that later, but like if one of these vehicle missions was like actually difficult.
Yes.
It should kind of just, I want these missions to feel short, but kind of like running through a patch of coins in Mario where it just feels nice.
Yeah.
Doesn't really add anything necessarily gameplay wise, but just kind of fun to know. It's like, okay, I went through the section where I was sneaking around spying, actually vulnerable, and now I'm overpowered, ridiculous, blasting through everything.
Yes. Yeah, that can be satisfying, yeah.
Yeah, I think this game, we'll get into this later, especially with one stretch of levels towards the end, but it dips into the vehicle levels a bit too much.
Yes.
I think
so.
Yeah.
There was like a fun set piece, I guess if that's what you could call it, where you like smash through a lodge, and there's like you like drive by, there's like people sitting at the bar, and you just drive by on a snowmobile, and you're like, hey. I like that part.
I love stuff like that. It ends the snowmobile section with a crash through a freaking helicopter, which I thought felt an awful lot like a Call of Duty game.
Yeah, and then my only other like complaint about this level was the sensitivity felt way too low. Like I wish I could have like whipped the machine gun around a bit faster.
Did you mess around with any of the optional like controller settings?
I looked through the controller layouts, and I think I ended up using Nightfire for the whole game.
Okay. Was that the one where you shoot with triggers?
RB.
Instead of bumpers? Or RB, yeah. Okay. Yeah, they had like a decent variety of like control options. There was one of them, it might have been Nightfire, that felt fairly modern, but I don't know if there was like sensitivity adjustments and stuff. There might have missed that, but I think it did feel just like a little clunky. There's just like some aspect of these early first-person shooters that just feels sluggish. Mm-hmm. So I definitely feel that. Moving on to the next mission, after they make their way through their, snowmobile little thingy, Bond and Zoe take refuge in an inconspicuous shack for the night,
where it is very subtly implied that they banged.
Doesn't she go like, "Oh, James"? Like, I feel like that's...
Yeah, she does. I don't know what she said. I think it was something like, because so they were in this shack next to a garage, and their escape car was just there the whole time.
Okay.
And she's like, "Why wouldn't we just leave?" And he's like, "I thought you could use the rest." Or something. And I think she's like, "Well, I hardly got any rest with you." Or something like that. So, very like subtle. It's not many people probably picked up on the fact that they had sex.
Oh, no.
So
how could you?
It's very uncommon actually for a man as chivalrous as James Bond to partake in any sort of, sexual activities on the job nonetheless. So, but yeah, after that, you get to drive around in James Bond's little sweet Aston Martin again. The ending arena area is fun, I guess. You have to take out like a series of helicopters before you can be extracted, and it's a short-ish section. But yeah, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting there to be like a car boss fight where it's like, hey, we're gonna put your car in a boss arena and you're gonna have these rockets to take out these helicopters. It was fine because it wasn't super difficult. I think it was timed, if I remember right. Or maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Maybe.
Actually, no. I think there was a different one that was timed. But anyway, no, I was fine with this level. I just was like hoping after the on-rails shooter part, I was like, but where's the Bond gameplay? Like, I wanted to get back to like the sneaking and the shooting instead of like another vehicle thing.
So I didn't realize it happened here as well, but I think this game does stack its vehicle sections in a way that is not really fun.
Yeah.
Like, they should be like one-offs to break up the gameplay instead of like clumped up together.
Yes.
So we had like the on-rail section, and then we can do the vehicle level. I think those should be considered like separate from the core gameplay and should be used sparingly and not together ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely feel that.
So for our next level, we have Double Cross. In this level, we are sent to retrieve Alexander Mayhew, the man who is handing over the missile guidance system to Drake at his party. Mayhew suspects retaliation from Drake for the deal gone sideways and is willing to disclose information on Drake's Nightfire plan with MI6 in exchange for his safety. So as Mayhew suspected, Drake did send men to kill him. With the help of Mayhew's bodyguard, Kiko Hayashi, you set out to escort Mayhew to safety.
I thought this was one of the most memorable combat sections in the game. It's not really... I don't think there's any stealth element to it. Actually, I think there is optional stealth, but it was guns blazing for me all the way. It's just like a really memorable setting, I think. It's kind of like a generic sort of like Japanese, like screen doors and stuff like that, like wood panel floors and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
well, and like the
nice
gardens.
Backdrop. And the gardens, yeah.
Yeah. It's very
sweet.
I guess to make you feel like a ninja. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's like Yakuza members who are attacking you, which is pretty sweet.
Yes. As soon as do you remember when I texted you and I was like, oh, I'm playing this game like it's Doom? Yeah. So as soon as I got my hands on the shotgun, it turned into like a Doom level for me. Like I was like strafing and hopping around. I was like one-shotting everybody and everything.
The combat definitely started to click around this section for me.
Yeah.
And it's probably, they want you to be blazing through this first part at the very least, because it just like kicks off right after the cutscene ends, and it's like, blasting your way through. You get the shotgun from somebody, or you have it on you. I don't remember, but yeah, it's very fast paced and fun.
Yeah. This level also tries to like take advantage of it being like nighttime, and it tries to do like a thing with like, oh, it's too dark outside for you to see the bad guys. Here, put on your super cool spy shades so you can see the bad guys better. I didn't have to do that. I could see them anyway. And when I put on the shades, it didn't seem to do anything. So.
Okay. So yeah, this is actually something I had to do on a CRT.
Okay.
Because, well, first of all, let me preface this by saying, I think my CRT needs like some settings adjusted, because there's like, games are too black, if that makes sense. Like the dark grays turn into blacks a lot on my CRT. But CRTs have like a really deep black level. That means that like you have a wider dynamic range between like absolute white and basically nothing, because I think it can individually turn off like, certain pixels. So it gets really dark. Whenever I was playing it through my RetroTink on like an actual monitor, much easier to see everybody. Didn't really need the glasses, but on a CRT, it's kind of a necessity based off the hardware. So
interesting.
Were the glasses settings not working for you? Because you have like a night vision and like a thermal sort of like view option.
Yeah. So part of the problem was by the time I figured out there was, I didn't know what each mode was supposed to do. I think I used the blue mode to try and like see people, but like I said, I could already kind of see them anyway, so it didn't add anything to anything.
Okay. At first, whenever you wrote that down, I thought that you meant that there was like an issue with the glasses not really showing anybody.
No.
Okay.
There is like an objective in this level where it says, hey, you have to find and open the dragon safe to get like, I don't even remember what was in the safe or whatever. But the game calls it a safe. But what they mean is a random ass dragon shaped statue that's like sitting on a shelf. And I just like so happened to like walk past it and see like the interact prompt. And I'm glad I did, because if I didn't, I would have been like walking around looking for a box, and there's no way I would have found it.
Yeah, I had to look this one up. But whenever Mayhew gives you this little like key or whatever, he's like, feed it to the dragon, and Pierce Brosnan's like, the dragon.
Okay.
But I totally missed this. I think I just was like tuning out the story the first time I played. I was just like focused on gameplay exclusively or something. I had to look that one up.
Okay.
So for the section where you have to like save his workers, you get hit on pretty heavily, which is pretty funny.
Right, by like these traumatized women.
Yeah, they're just like, they were about to be murdered or whatever.
Right.
And they're like, oh my God, I'm so horny all of a sudden.
Oh, a hot man has come to save me.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah.
I love how he's like talking to this person from the first time. They say like 2 sentences and they're making out.
Right.
It's just like so over the top.
It is.
Which is what I expected. That's what I've been told about James Bond.
Yes.
But
the womanizer supreme, I guess.
Exactly.
So right before you're able to take Mayhew to the escape vehicle, an assassin jumps down from the roof of a nearby building and slashes Mayhew with a katana. Yeah. Mayhew dies. Who saw that coming? How could this happen? And then your objective is to kill the assassin.
Yeah, so your boss fight with the ulting Genji is a little difficult, but I kind of just like threw literally everything I had at him and he died.
Yeah,
so,
I was going to say, I just like backpedaled with the shotgun and I didn't have any problems.
Yeah. I think, did I have a sniper? I can't remember, but yeah, it was either the sniper or the shotgun and he died. So I thought it was neat. Felt a little out of nowhere, but I was down for it. Like, there's a cyborg ninja all of a sudden.
And also I was surprised to have like a boss fight. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think most shooters struggle with boss fights, but Cyborg Ninja is a pretty creative one. So that concludes Double Cross. The next mission is entitled Night Shift. So in not Mayhew's. In Mayhew's dying moments, he points us towards a building in Tokyo that Drake owns that contains some incriminating information on Nightfire. The first part of this mission sees you sneaking through offices and avoiding or stunning any guards that you come across. This is more in line with like what I expected the gameplay of James Bond to be, like a super spy trying to like infiltrate a building and, get out without really alerting anybody.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how to feel about the stealth challenge in this level. Something about it, and I don't really know what, had me feeling kind of like a little bored, like just not very engaged. It might have been because I was on the lowest difficulty, because I think they might reduce like the amount of enemies on lower difficulties.
Potentially.
I felt like the level itself would have benefited a lot from like modern technology. Like there were a lot of like boring gray textures and like blocky, like big empty blocky rooms. So yeah, I found that kind of
I think there's a level similar to this later on, but I think that one's more guns blazing if I remember right. I enjoyed this one. This is probably one of my like most, I think one of the most memorable missions.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion, because like there's a couple good opportunities to use your like spy gadgets to like climb through a vent and stuff like that, which is all fun. That's kind of like what I think is the most fun about the game, is like whenever you have a fun or creative way to use any of your spy gear.
Oh yeah, this was the first level I think where I had to pull up a guide. Because there's like this door with a keypad, right? And you can interact with the keypad and start like putting in numbers for like the code. What you're supposed to do is use your like decryptor gadget to decrypt the code, and then it will automatically put in the code and open the door. And I was like, well, if you wanted me to, then why could I interact with the keypad and put in numbers if I don't know the code?
I also had to look up just to see like how do you use this thing?
Right.
Like, I think I knew you had to use the decoder, but like it takes a second to get going, and it made me think it wasn't working.
Oh yeah, like you have to stand there for a hot second while it does its little decoding thing.
Yeah. But the mission ends with your cover being blown. You fight some of Drake's men, jump off the skyscraper to your parachute to your safety, of course. You land on like this car with 2 girls in it, and you just like say, "Sorry to drop in like this. Would you ladies mind giving me a ride?" And then they just giggle wildly. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, look at a random stranger that smashed into the roof of our car." Like, that's not like the wildest thing they've ever seen in their life.
I think it literally ends like that. It's like, "Hey,
it does.
Would you mind giving me a ride?" And then it's just like, it feels like a man doing an impression of a woman laughing, but like a woman actually doing it. And it's like super exaggerated. It's funny stuff.
Well, and also, if you have like international bad guys on your tail as a super spy, wouldn't it be super irresponsible to like have civilians like cart you around, because then they could get like caught up and like murdered in it?
Yep. Also, just the idea that like he parachuted to safety. Yeah, they lost him. That's it.
Right.
He's riding around in someone's car. So
the next level is called Chain Reaction. The information you recovered in the previous mission points towards an abandoned nuclear power plant in Japan, which has become the base of operations for Drake's Nightfire plan. In the first section of this mission, you're tasked with infiltrating the base. However, there are dozens of snipers scattered along the rooftops. I think this was one of my favorite levels in the game, just because it was kind of fun and satisfying to like spot the other snipers and then kill them.
Oh yeah, this is, I think, from like discourse I've heard about this game, a lot of people point to this as being like one of the most memorable missions.
Yes.
And I think it makes a lot of sense. It's just like very like, it's always fun in a shooter to have like a really good sniper mission.
Yes.
Like where it's a little slow in plotting and you just gotta like spot these men and take them out. It's fun stuff.
Yes. So like basically what you're doing, I think, is you're moving from these warehouses and sort of like gathering evidence for like what Drake is doing. And you use the camera gadget to like take pictures of some of his experimental technology or whatever. But there was this part where you had to use, do you remember, like, I think it was to get into the third warehouse, and there were like these like zip lines and like cranes.
Yeah.
And I got stuck there because I couldn't figure out, because it's not like super obvious where to go.
I remember like piddling around for a while until I hopped on that really obnoxiously long zip line that you had to like shimmy across. Right.
And I think I died like twice because the snipers in that level are actually like really well hidden or in that area.
Yeah. They're not like, you don't see like a cone of vision or like a spotlight or anything to spot them out. You just kind of have to identify them from like their silhouette on a rooftop or what have you.
Yes.
I don't know if that's like too unforgiving to the player, but I think it felt fun. So
yeah, I mean, there was something satisfying about like, even after I died, like, oh, well, I already know where all these guys are, so I'll snipe them first and then, take my time trying to find the others that killed me last time. Like that, it was okay.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't mind it.
I liked it.
So the mission ends with you and Kiko escaping in a helicopter where she betrays you, surprise, and drugs you.
Yeah, that was surprising.
Yeah.
Of course,
yes.
The one woman that would not have sex with me.
Right. And then it's revealed that she was working with Drake the whole time.
Yeah, that leads in directly to the next mission, Phoenix Fire. This mission opens with Bond, Drake, Dominique, and Kiko sitting around a table on top of the skyscraper in Tokyo. Drake reveals that he knows that Dominique is a spy, and then a brawl ensues, and she frickin' gets knocked off the building and falls to her death, which is a little
She dies?
shocking.
I missed that.
No, she dead as hell.
Oh my gosh.
But she doesn't you don't see her dead or anything. You just kind of see her falling off the building and screaming. And I was like, oh, she's probably fine. And then she never comes back.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Bond is forced to just blast his way through the building to escape. It's another, combat focus section.
I think this one starts you off with like a really limited like set of weapons, right? Like I think you just have like a pistol.
I believe so.
And
yeah.
It's like, okay, here, now go scrounge around for like more weapons that are, more effective than just this little pistol. I thought that was fun. It was a good increase in a good difficulty spike.
Yeah, if I remember right, some of the weapons you can find on this one are pretty like fun as well. Like you start getting access to more powerful weapons, like automatic rifles and stuff like that.
Yes.
I really liked the elevator shaft section where you're like trying to like defuse bombs as they're like falling on you and stuff. That one's pretty fun because you like bust out the watch and like zap them.
Yes. That was fun, but it also freaked me out because I couldn't tell when they were disabled because like they were still like flashing numbers on the screen. And I was like, are they going to blow up or are they good? Mm-hmm. Like I couldn't tell.
Like the countdown just gets all jumbled.
Yeah. Yes. There were also these like little mini turret things in briefcases that you could like sit down on the floor that the enemies also had planted on the floor. They were called Phoenix something. I don't remember what.
I just called them Torb turrets.
Okay. Well, they shredded my ass a few times.
Oh, yeah.
And then
they're terrifying.
Yeah, I had a walkthrough pulled up just because the layout for this one, this is the same skyscraper that was in Night Shift, to be clear.
I believe,
yes. Pretty sure it was. And this was the first time where I ever used grenades in the game because they're really handy for destroying the Torb turrets, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
So it like once I started using the grenades, I was like, oh, these are really handy. Like what other handy things have I just been like not using because I just don't know any better?
I legitimately did not use the like grenades until the last mission where you can use the grenades.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, oh, this pretty dang useful, those grenades. So yeah, I mean, after we fight our way through the building, we get to the ground floor. We're rescued by a new character who looks an awful lot like the previous Zoe character called Laura McCall, an Australian operative who's blonde and has probably the exact same model.
Yeah,
but
as like Zoe Nightshade or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, they killed Dominique, so they have to give you a new lady to smooch on.
Exactly. Yeah. Bond must have at least 2 women or else he gets, erased.
His lips get chapped.
Yeah, his lips get chapped. He can't focus on the mission without 2 women.
One for each arm.
But anyway, Bond and McCall, they drive away, make their escape. Bond shows the teensiest tiny bit of emotion over Dominique's death, and then he's right back in the game.
What does he do? Like, how does he show emotion? Is he just...
McCall's like, oh, talkative one, aren't you? And he's like, sorry, it's been a tough night. Lost a friend.
Yeah. I didn't even I remember hearing that voice line and I didn't even pick up on what it meant. I was like, why are you so pissed off? I didn't even realize.
Yeah. So, that's how that mission ends.
So for Deep Descent, to reach Drake's Island, Bond and McCall take MI6's Aston Martin underwater in a very frustrating water level.
Mm-hmm. For some reason, this is actually an issue with the next level as well. There's no checkpoints anywhere. If you die at any point, you go back to the beginning of the level, and it's not a particularly short level. So I died 2 or 3 times at the very end of the mission because you can just get one shot, I think, by this submarine.
Yes.
And then you just got to do the whole goddamn mission over again.
And it's a
pain. It
is a pain. Yeah, so this was where I started because I was playing on an emulator. This is where I started save state scumming. And what I ended up doing for the submarine boss fight was this level introduces a guided, well, it doesn't introduce because I guess you had him in the helicopter boss fight at the end of the first level or whatever.
First real mission, yeah.
But the Aston Martin has guided rockets. And I hid behind one of the subs that you're supposed to blow up and shot the boss sub with guided rockets until it exploded.
I looked up someone beating the mission and I was like, okay, I'm going to implement this strategy now because that's what they also did.
Much easier if you do it that way.
Yeah. I mean, that's all I got to say about this mission is that it kind of sucks.
Yeah, just from a lack of
you're kind of
checkpoints.
Yeah, you're mostly most of the time is spent navigating through these mines, which is a little enjoyable, I think, but the dying and going back to the beginning part was okay, this sucks.
Oh, I also couldn't figure out. So it says like, oh, hey, watch out for the mines because if you run into them, it could cause a cave in. And me being a dumbass, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna shoot them all and blow them all up. Don't do that because you will cause a cave in. So I died to that like 3 different times before I was like, hey, maybe I just need to drive around them.
That sounds like something 006 would.
Yes. Y'all don't worry about this. I got my rocket launcher.
What's that? There's mines? I'll get them.
I'll get them. Right. But anyway, yeah. So from this level, you discover and disarm some of Drake's nuclear missiles and arrive on the shore of his island.
And that brings us to Island Infiltration, the next mission. This is just an onslaught of different vehicle levels, basically, all tied up into one. So combined with the previous vehicle level, it's just like 4 vehicles back to back, which is just...
too much.
Insufferable, some would say. Yeah, so the first part of this mission sees Bond and McCall driving around in an armored, weaponized SUV, fighting off turrets and other enemy vehicles that are scattered throughout the island as they make their way to like this airport section. On top of just dying often and being bad at the game, I ran into a lot of bugs with this section, with like my vehicle getting like stuck in bridges and all kinds of weird stuff.
Oh.
The bridge one was annoying. It was like as that one bridge was deploying that you have to like open.
Okay.
I don't remember. But you deploy a bridge. My wheel got stuck in it because I like ran off just like a little bit too early, and I was like, I guess I gotta restart. I'm just stuck here. Can't move.
Yeah, I had a hard time. There's like something you have to do like right at the beginning where I think you have to like go to a big satellite dish and download a code and then use the code to get through the gates. I couldn't figure out how to download the code. Like that took me a hot second to figure out.
Yeah. I remember that section too, being like a little strange. I started shooting stuff that just didn't blow up at first. It's like, okay.
And then at the end of like the SUV section, there's a boss fight where you have a big turret and then you have 2 other cars that have like rocket launchers or something. And they all just immediately like swarm you and start shooting at you. And it was so stupid and it felt so unfair because it's like, okay, they just like throw you in it and you have like no like good way to get a shot lined up. So my health bar got like obliterated.
Yeah, my health bar was already kind of low coming into this section, but apparently there's like a little secret path where you can go get some armor for your vehicle.
Oh, okay.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
You know, I saw that in one of the videos I watched, but yeah, I first time I did this, I made it through barely alive, and going into the second section of this mission, you're on like an on-rail shooting segment where McCall is flying a jet and you're just like shooting stuff. For some reason, you keep the health that you had throughout the other section.
Oh, that pissed me off. That made me so mad.
Yeah, we both ran into that.
Yeah.
I died like a second into the mission.
Yeah.
It was so low.
Yeah, it was like, okay, listen. You gave me, I had an SUV. That is a separate vehicle. You gave me this whole other jet, and it's not even the same vehicle. Why would you like make me keep the same health bar? It makes no sense.
That's probably a mistake, right? Like I have to assume that's a mistake or like an oversight in some capacity.
I don't know.
It feels so stupid it couldn't be intentional.
Right. So I think because of the fact that, and I was also save states coming for this, so I was like bound and determined to finish the jet section on the crappy low health bar from the SUV section. Yeah. So because of this jet section, this is my least favorite level in the entire game. Hate it.
I think that's a fair thing to levy at this level because it's kind of doo-doo, especially like just this whole stretch of the game is like, I don't know how long it takes, but it's like on-rail sections and just slow vehicles. And it's like I said earlier, it makes more sense to like dole these out, piece by piece throughout the game instead of just clumped up all together. Here we're going from submarine, SUV, jet, and we end on like a turret for like a brief second. And like, half of those are just like on-rail sections where it will take a set amount of time and you can't do it faster or slower.
Right.
And it's like, it's a pain. They all have bad checkpoints. I mean, but that concludes this horrible section. We get one last like sort of open gunning section in the next level.
Right. So the next level is called Countdown. So in the first part of this level, Bond and McCall infiltrate Drake's command center.
Oh, yeah. So you start this level with a crossbow for some reason, just pulls it out of his ass, I guess.
I know. I was like, oh, okay. Because like before, when you were trying to do like the like sneaky infiltration stuff, you had like this little dart gun. Mm-hmm. And then now it's like, oh no, we're going to give you a whole ass crossbow. And it's like, okay.
I guess because you weren't trying to kill the night guards. They weren't like in on it, so you weren't trying to kill them.
Okay. That makes sense.
These people are disposable, I guess. But yeah, you have this sweet crossbow to start the level. Because you start out stealth. You probably don't remain stealth, assuming you're not amazing at the game like us. I think you can do most of it without ever going guns blazing, but I think there's a point where it kicks off and you gotta just start blasting fools. You can use the crossbow for a little bit, which is pretty sweet. There's a lot of really fun weapons in this mission. There's like a laser beam weapon. I think it's called like Phoenix. I think it's called like Phoenix Rising or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that one's pretty fun. You have like a really overpowered like assault rifle thing too.
Oh yeah, with the crazy like red sights on it.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
So about halfway through this one, there's like a boss fight with a black guy with a messed up face. I had no idea who he was.
So
and he was like mad about it. He was like, I'm going to get James back for what he did to my face. And it's like, what did I do to your face?
For the makeover he gave me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the pilot of the helicopter in the first mission.
He was?
Well, not the first mission, the one that you shot down.
Oh, okay.
He was also like a butler at the party and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, he really hung on to that grudge. I done forgot already. That's funny.
I'm with you. I didn't pick up on that the first time, but watching it through, I was like, oh, it's the guy.
Yeah. So during that boss fight with him, I sort of felt like the boss fights in this game kind of feel like whatever, because he's a dude in a hallway that acts just like all the other dudes in the hallway, but had more health.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't particularly like challenging to deal with him. I think he threw like a grenade at me and I was like, oh, that's different. I haven't seen that happen before.
Yeah, I'm sure he's more menacing on like a higher level, probably.
Yes.
But yeah, not particularly threatening on the lowest baby mode that we played on.
Right.
I watched a walkthrough of someone who actually like knows how to use the gadgets and stuff in the game. And this was another level where there's just like some really cool like secret routes that you can take to like make your way through using the vents and stuff. It's pretty sweet.
Oh.
At the beginning of this final section, we mentioned this earlier, but Drake is revealing his master plan over the intercom and you're just like blasting your way through it, which is pretty funny.
Yes. So Drake is beginning to launch shuttles to the U.S. space defense platform. In trying to board one of these shuttles, Bond is dropped down to the maintenance area below the rockets by Kiko. And then from here, you have to fight off Kiko and other enemies while avoiding the periodic blast of the launching rockets. It took me a few tries to figure out that I had to get in the little rooms before the doors closed. So I got fried several times.
Yeah. You have a very generous amount of time to figure out what to do the first time you go in there.
Yes.
So I walked into the room and then nothing happened. So I was like, must be some other place I gotta go.
Yes.
Because I was expecting like a cutscene to kick in or something, but you just gotta wait it out.
Right.
So
yeah, no, that's exactly what I was doing. Like I walked in the room and I was like, well, this doesn't feel like a very good place to hide because it's kind of like, it's not that far back in there. But the doors don't start closing until I think you're like 8 seconds into the countdown or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. I figured it out. Well, no, I think I looked up a guide because I was like, I don't know what's happening. I started save states coming again because, but then eventually you defeat Kiriko by, I think you climb up into the last shuttle that's taking off and she gets like burned alive. And I was like, that's incredibly violent.
Oh, yeah. So what happens is she obviously like, you're trying to enter the shuttle and she like drops the loading platform. So you fall down beneath. And as she's trying to board that last shuttle,
yes,
you sneak up behind her and do the same thing to her.
Yes.
And she gets freaking eviscerated.
Right.
As you're putting on your little silly space outfit. And you're like, I'm rising to the occasion, which is just...
That is puns are another, at least Pierce Brosnan era James Bond thing, just so you know.
Okay.
Yeah. Like that's to be expected.
It made me laugh because of how cheesy it felt.
Yeah.
Like I was on board for that. I wasn't like rolling my eyes or anything. I just thought it was kind of ridiculous and funny. Like it just cuts from, fairly brutal death to
Pierce Brosnan making a ha-ha.
Right.
So that leads us to the last mission of the game, Equinox. It's a fight in space, which is kind of funny because that's like a meme from like a Call of Duty campaign that like, where will this go? I don't know, space? Like,
yeah.
Which is kind of funny that this game
has already done
that.
it, Scrubs.
Honestly, this game felt a lot like a Call of Duty campaign, like a modern Call of Duty campaign. But yeah, this is a pretty straightforward last mission. It's pretty much just one area. You're in like zero gravity, so you can kind of move in all directions, which felt fine to me. It didn't feel like too disorienting in any sense. Mm-hmm. It's basically just like surviving and like destroying like these, what are they called? Like launch couplings. As Drake is trying to like launch the missiles, you got to like destroy them as they open up or something.
Right. Yep.
And you're just like fighting off an onslaught of enemies as they pop out trying to stop you. And once you finish that, everything starts blowing up and you have to fight the big bad man himself in his silly little space outfit as you're flying around.
I think for me, he died after like 3 shots and I was like, oh.
It doesn't take too much. He's just a man.
Yeah.
It didn't feel very strong. I didn't realize that I was fighting him until like a little bit after.
Oh, he has a different color astronaut suit.
Yeah. I mean, I knew it was him, but like it took a while to realize that I was going to have to fight him.
Oh.
Like, I'm like, oh, he's dead.
Yeah.
But no, he just like slowly floats his way towards you. It's like, I'm gonna get you, you son of a bitch. But it ends with Bond taking a little skate pod back to Earth. He bangs the Australian lady while he's in his car under the ocean, which is pretty insane. Hats off to this mad lad.
Yeah, I think he says something about like, oh, we'll let autopilot be the designated driver. And then they recline back in their seats and then you hear, oh, James.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
And yeah, that's how it ends. Well, actually, that's not exactly how it ends. Before it cuts to like the credits rolling, we get a short but sweet little behind the scenes documentary.
Oh yeah, I love that.
That's fantastic. This feels like a thing from this era specifically, and maybe going into like the PS3, Xbox 360 era, like towards the beginning of it, we still had things like this. Mm-hmm. It's so like down to earth and makes me feel like, oh, my game was made by people.
Yes.
And I really love that.
I do too.
Fortunately, not much of a thing anymore. Any overall thoughts that you had on the campaign as at large?
I definitely felt like the strongest levels were the ones that were focused on like stealthing around his Bond to like basically anything that wasn't a vehicle level.
Mm-hmm. I agree. The I know that you didn't particularly like this stealth mission, but the what was it? Night Shift.
Yes.
I really liked Night Shift. That chain of levels from, well, I guess that's broken up by 2 vehicle levels, but like the first real mission where you're walking around the party, going into Double Cross with this like all action basically, and then into Night Shift, and then into Chain Reaction. That's a really good run of levels.
It is. It is very good. Yeah.
That's like a chain of like on foot, normal levels.
Right.
Maybe those could have been broken up with like the vehicle missions. I don't know. This game is extremely short, but at the same time, some of those vehicle missions with like the really bad checkpoints and like the on-rail sections just kind of felt like padding to me. Mm-hmm. And this game is really like a blast to play through. And I don't know why they needed to like tone it down. Like, oh, we can't. This needs to be like 5 hours instead of like 2 or 3. And it's like, maybe it could have been 2 or 3 hours. Like I'm personally now way more open to really short games than I think maybe the general audience of gaming was at the time.
Yeah. I mean, like if anything, so like once you complete all the levels, you can still go back and play like any which level you want. So it might be worth just like doing like a run through of the game and like unlocking all the levels and then doing like a second run through where you just skip the vehicle crap and just try to explore and experiment with like all the weapons and gadgets and pathways and stuff in like the on foot levels.
I personally do not feel compelled at all to like revisit the vehicle levels.
No.
So if I was playing this game again, it would just be the actual like real section of the game.
Yes.
Yeah. So one thing that we really can only touch on because we didn't really get to experience it is the multiplayer. This game has a fairly extensive set of like couch co-op versus AI and stuff like that. Multiplayer modes, which a lot of people really enjoyed. And I played just like a little bit of it against AI because I didn't have anyone to play it with, but it seemed pretty good. But I can't really speak to like that aspect of the game super heavily.
Did you check out the multiplayer at all?
No, I didn't. I just did the campaign. That was it.
Yeah. I think it's mostly, I don't know if it's straight up locations from the campaign or if it's like modified and like themed after.
Okay.
But like, I could see certain areas in the campaign acting as like multiplayer maps. Seems like a fun time. I think each character has like little like quirks to them and stuff. Like, I believe Oddjob is shorter than everyone else, and like certain characters have more health. So it's like a little bit like
a hero shooter. Overwatch? No.
Yeah, it's a hero shooter. Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, seems fun, but more of a time and place thing that we didn't really get to experience.
Right.
Moving on to like general thoughts on the mechanics. For me, I felt like this game wasn't too bad to like get used to. It still definitely had that like sluggish sort of early 2000s first-person shooter on console feel to it.
Yes. I thought it was interesting how there was, like to aim, I think you could hold like LB to get like a more like, what would you call that? Like a fine tune on your aim, I guess?
Yeah, but you stand still, right? Isn't that
you can move from side to side. Okay. So I used it quite a bit to like try and get a quick snap headshot while I was like frantically moving from side to side if I had like low health or something. And that would usually work.
So like that side to side, like you move your cursor around the screen sort of mode.
Yes.
That's kind of reminiscent of like GoldenEye on the N64, where you had one analog stick, so you had to choose between moving and aiming.
Oh boy.
So you would like stand still and actually aim.
Oh no.
But that's what that felt like to me.
Okay.
I think the variety of like control schemes that the game gives you, there's definitely something that will make sense to your brain if you try to play this game today. It just may not feel super snappy or responsive like you might want it to feel. I think the most interesting aspect of the game's mechanics is like the interaction between like the world and the various gadgets that you have.
Yes.
So like exploring like side paths and like taking down objectives in like interesting ways. All stuff that you can do through the gadgets. That's like where the main sort of like replay value I think comes from.
That kind of reminds me of like Hitman in a way.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Like a very rudimentary Hitman.
And I think a game that was more focused on like, a sandbox level where you start out stealth and you can kind of approach it however you want. You can like be all stealthy. You can, use your gadgets to get through. You could probably do like non-violent or something like that. That sounds really appealing to me, but it's not entirely what this game is. So yeah. Anything else to say about the mechanics?
Did you get any of those? You know how you would like do a certain, I don't know, like stunt or like complete a certain task and it would do like the 007 thing would like flash on screen?
Yes.
I don't really know what that did though.
Yeah, I think it was literally just for flair.
Okay.
Like,
would it give you like extra like points or whatever at the end?
Oh, you know what? It probably did give you more points.
Okay.
Like, I could see that. But like, I wrote this down in the aesthetic section, but like, whenever you do one of those James Bondy like activities, and it just feels like so canny.
Yes.
Like how it just like da-da-da-da. Like I could do with the sound cue, but like when the little logo pops up on screen and spins around like an early 2000s graphic.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I guess it wasn't that cool. But yeah, that's definitely more of an outdated section of the game's visual design. Like,
yeah,
a lot of things this game does, I think, are ahead of its time in a sense, but that is definitely of its time.
Well, and also like the point system for like, you finish the level and it's like, here are your points. And it's like, okay, why?
That's definitely something that we've left behind.
Yes.
So yeah. Moving on to the map design, I think that a lot of the non-vehicle levels were all like very open, sandboxy, and allowed for a lot of like player choice and stuff and how to approach objectives. For the most part, there's some where it's like, hey, you're combat focused right now. It's not stealth. Stealth is not really an option. And that's fine. I think juggling those two types of levels is probably the key aspect of creating a James Bond game, like a good James Bond game. And it does it decently. I think the real issue was just the overabundance of like the vehicle and on-rail section of the game. So,
also like one of the things, do you think this game benefits from not having like objective markers?
I think if this game came out today, it would have objective markers.
Yeah.
There were just like occasional things that were like a little too difficult. For the most part, you're kind of railroaded by like, it's open-ended levels, but like eventually you're going to find this big old door that looks different, or this keypad, or this computer that's like a different color than all the other ones.
Right.
So it's not the worst, but I think there were definitely a couple moments where I'm just like, I don't know where to go.
Right.
I need to look this up.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's passable, but I think objective markers would definitely help.
Yeah. For the, there was like an objective section of like the menu where you could go like hover over your current objective and like hit X for like a hint or something. Yeah. The hints were not always the most helpful thing in the world.
No, not particularly at all. I think I did that whenever I was trying to find the dragon statue, and it was like, feed the dragon. I don't know what it said, but it wasn't helpful.
Yeah. Right. It's like, can I get like a left, or like, hey, go left, or like go, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or like look for this thing, and then you'll know you're there, and it's like, oh, okay, I could do that.
Here's a picture of it.
Right.
So yeah, moving on to the general sort of aesthetic choices that this game makes. We already touched on the like James Bondy logo that appears, but I think that for the most part, playing this game on an emulator, at least what I saw from like an emulator game, it looks decent. Like it holds up pretty well.
Yeah.
It's definitely playable.
I mean,
nothing like too obnoxious.
You can kind of see the polygons that your guys are made of, but it's not like that bad.
Yeah. It's not horrible.
Yeah.
I don't know if this falls under like an aesthetic choice, but like I feel like the models for all the ladies were so like copy and paste.
Yes.
Like everyone looked the same. I could only determine based on hair color, basically, which woman was which.
Yeah. They all have the same body type, skin type clothing, similar-ish hairstyles, maybe. Well, Kiko was kind of different, but
that's true.
The Australian lady and I think Nightshade, I couldn't tell them apart.
Oh yeah, those two were. I did not know those were two different people.
Yeah.
Until I looked up. So yeah, that's I think if you're making a James Bond game today, that aspect of it could be handled a little better.
Yeah.
I think James Bond can still be a bit of a womanizer, but I think the women in the game could be a little less horny.
A little less like, oh, whatever you want, James. Like,
yeah.
Maybe have a little bit more of their own personality and goals and aspirations and all that. Anything.
Yeah. Anything. I think it more so stands out for me for like the side characters who just like throw themselves.
Yes.
At James, like just out of nowhere. But yeah, that covers everything unless you got something else to add.
No, I don't think so.
All right, that covers James Bond 007 Nightfire. Where you can play this today, it has 3 console versions that are, as far as I can tell, identical other than like, technical differences like load times and stuff. You have it on the PS2, the GameCube, and the Xbox. All very affordable. PS2, you're looking at around $15 or less to pick this game up. Xbox is also around $15. GameCube, of course, is more expensive because it's the GameCube, at around $25. Still very affordable, like considering all of these games, sort of like what your average game will go for on each console. There is a PC version of the game that has omitted the like driving sections. I don't know if it omitted like all vehicle sections, but like some, if not all. It's also developed by a different studio.
Maybe that's the ideal version.
Well, maybe. I know that at the time it was reviewed less favorably than the console versions were.
Okay.
A couple of the reviews that I looked up reported like poor AI and stuff like that.
Oh.
And then Morgan, if you scroll to the bottom.
Yes.
I need you to click on the GBA version.
Okay, I have the YouTube video pulled up. Do you want me to watch it?
Oh yeah, just give that a little look.
Okay. Oh my god.
This is a whole ass first person shooter on the Game Boy Advance.
What? Oh, it looks like ass.
I don't know how you control this. I guess you point. I guess it's just Doom like so. Tank controls. You can go forward, backwards, probably turn left and right.
Wow.
Looks like it. I want to play this.
Yeah?
This looks ridiculous.
Oh, it looks like Doom.
Yeah, it looks like Doom. The audio looks hella compressed. Or the sound's hella compressed.
It does, yeah. Oh, wow.
So whenever there's a GBA port, I'm expecting like top down,
or
different
like 2D platformer.
Yeah, I really want to try this. This looks stupid.
It does look stupid. Wow. I've never seen anything like that on the Game Boy.
I don't think I've ever seen a first-person shooter on the Game Boy.
No.
Other than like maybe Doom, because Doom has to be ported to everything by modders. But yeah, So that's pretty neat. That version of the game runs for $40.
Jeez.
Or at least, no. I saw one listing for it on eBay and it was $40.
Oh, okay.
So that's it. So apparently not a super common game. Definitely the most interesting of like all these versions is this Game Boy version.
Right.
So.
And in terms of like the console versions, the only differences I could like find in my research was just like loading times. So like I think Xbox was the fastest and PS2 was the slowest, which means the GameCube was like right in the middle.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's always interesting like how those differences play out in the speedrunning community, because this is something that I've looked into for SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom of all games.
Yeah.
I can't remember which version was preferred, but I don't think it's always like super clear cut which of these three consoles ends up with the preferred version. Like, I think in some cases the PS2 version ends up being the more optimized of the three, even though it's the weakest hardware. And that may just be due to like more focus being put into that version because it's the, you know, the highest install base and stuff like that. But yeah, it's always interesting to see how those version differences, you know, affect the niche community of people who are trying to like play the game the fastest.
Yeah. And I would be interested to see what a speedrun of this game looks like, because I would imagine it would be kind of wild.
I imagine it would be pretty fun to see. Yeah. Because you can do a lot of wild stuff in it. So. All right. So, Morgan, do we recommend this game?
I say yes. I give it a big fat yes.
I give it a big fat thumbs up as well. I think this is like a really good, like short sort of weekend playthrough where you can just like beat it, you know, in 1 or 2 sittings. And it's just like a fun sort of like bunch of different, you know, variety locations and stuff. It's really short. It's a fun time. It's also so cheap.
Yes.
Like if you're into physical collecting, I would say this is like a no-brainer. This is like probably as far as like, this is the best cheap game that we've covered.
It's not $300 like Haunted Ground was.
Oh, yeah. I'm just thinking about it. So far, we've covered like dirt cheap games and super expensive games.
Yes.
And this is probably the best of the dirt cheap games. So definitely worth it. As far as like future entries in the James Bond series, I think it's been a while, like a hot second since we've seen a James Bond video game. I want to say the last one might have been on like the 360 or the Wii. You know, that generation.
Okay.
If James Bond were to make a comeback to video games, what aspects of this game would you like to see evolved or altered or brought forward into a new entry?
Definitely the like more like sandboxy aspects of like the mechanics and like the level design and everything. And I think it would benefit them to just like kick whoever, like, instead of trying to stick to the current James Bond era, like who's the actor that's playing James Bond right now? I don't think it would be a bad idea to have like a game James Bond universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I totally agree. Like kind of what they're doing with like the Marvel games.
Yeah, exactly.
Where it's like just a different thing entirely. They don't need to be. I know some people are like, oh, it looks like budget Tony Stark or budget Chris Pratt. It's like it can be a different guy.
Right.
Like, it's a different sort of universe, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that'd be cool. I think James Bond seriously like deserves a place in modern video games because he's kind of like integral to the history of like modern shooters with Goldeneye and stuff like that.
Oh, for sure.
And this game's pretty freaking sweet, despite being a little overlooked.
Yeah.
I don't know if like a next entry should be like full on Hitman levels of sandbox, but leaning more towards sandbox is good.
Yes. Toe the line between Hitman and Call of Duty somehow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, you know, turn the this game already has the Call of Duty dial danked up. I meant cranked up. It's got it cranked up to like 10 or something.
Yeah.
And it's just a bit too much Call of Duty. I feel like it should kind of exist in a little bit of a different space. You know, a bit more like stealth and like a gadget-focused gameplay.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, that's all I have to say about, you know, that. You have anything to add or?
No, I don't.
All right, so that concludes the James Bond discussion. I think that I tend to say that the discussion has concluded twice. Every episode, I usually end up cutting one out.
Oh, nice.
I think I always say it concludes every time we reach the conclusion, but then I say it actually concludes whenever we reach the, like, what are we playing next section.
Yeah.
So, whatever. Next, we're going to play Call of Duty Finest Hour, the first Call of Duty game. I believe this is originally a PC game, so this is, I think, ported to consoles.
Okay.
It's pretty dang short, sitting at around 5 hours as well. I started playing it. It's pretty solid. I think you'll enjoy it. It's very digestible in the way that Call of Duty games tend to be digestible.
Okay.
So that's what we'll be covering next time.
All right. So we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to hear more discussion of PlayStation 2 games, subscribe to or follow the show on whatever platform you like to listen on. You can expect a new episode on the 2nd of every month. You can find Clayton on pixel.wave, or you can find me by screaming in the void, and maybe I'll scream back. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Yep, goodbye.